They climbed the Swiss mountain and were very surprised when they saw who was following them. For a few hours everything was going well, but both Eric and Cyril had the feeling like they were being followed. They began a pattern of starting and stopping their hike while scanning the wilderness around them. This athletic couple enjoyed the challenging hikes and expeditions and chose Mount Briston as a destination for their upcoming trip. But when they started climbing, they felt that someone or something was following them, and what they discovered between the trees left them surprised. Cyril and Eric Rohrer lived an active and adventurous lifestyle, so it was not surprising when one day the couple set their sights on a new challenge. They would attempt to climb the summit of Briston Mountain in Switzerland. This new adventure was no small undertaking. They had to prepare themselves not only for a physically challenging hike but also for camping out and finding ways to give themselves adequate rest throughout the journey. Cyril and Eric had to wait a few weeks before beginning their expedition. Finally, the day arrived when both Eric and Cyril finished their last day of work. Next morning they would be en route for Mount Briston. The journey to the top was a 10,000-foot climb, or 3,000 kilometers as the Swiss would say. The next morning the couple was up with the sun and immediately on the move. They began their journey and took their time ascending up the side of the mountain. This was a vacation and not a race, after all, so they went at a comfortable pace and made frequent stops to explore nature or enjoy a nice view. Things were heavenly and Cyril and Eric felt like they were the only people in the world. When the sun lowered in the sky and the cold wind began to pick up, Cyril and Eric knew that it was time for them to find camp for the night. They had to wander a little to find a suitable area to settle in. One of them suggested that they take cover in a small secluded forest, a short climb away, so they made their way to the woods, but before they could enter, they stopped. Instinct told them that there was already something else in that forest. After looking around, they realized that they could camp out in a small clearing, just a short distance from the woods. Next morning, before the sun had even risen, the Rohrers both snapped awake. They looked to one another trying to figure out if they had really heard something or if it had been just a dream. They had both heard a noise. They could assume it had actually happened. It sounded animalistic and it came from the direction of the forest. The couple became deeply frightened. Nevertheless, they had a summit to hike to and they got to work, packing up to resume their journey. For a few hours everything was going well, but both Eric and Cyril had the feeling like they were being followed. They began a pattern of starting and stopping their hike while scanning the wilderness around them. At lunchtime they had some food and water and wondered if they were experiencing paranoia. If they were being hunted by a wild animal they would have realized by that point, so was this eerie presence a figment of their imagination? They tried a new strategy, by periodically taking videos, surveying their surroundings. Perhaps they would catch whatever creature was stalking them. Before long they saw glimpses of something very small popping in and out of the frame. It was not in fact a predator stalking them, that much was clear in the footage. This was a small animal staying nearby. At that point, they knew that this creature was in need of their help. Without a closer look they could not be sure. There was definitely something up with it. After all, they were halfway up a mountain summit. By that time the poor thing was likely suffering in the cold, and its situation only got worse the higher up they went. After some contemplation, the couple agreed they wanted to expend some effort in trying to help their little animal companion. They set up a trap to attract the creature towards them. Sacrificing some of their food was a risky move, but the Rohrers were such lovers of nature and wildlife, they did not hesitate for a second. When they saw what was actually following them, both of their jaws dropped in shock. It turns out they were being followed by a domesticated house cat that had strayed from the village. Once it ate some of their food, they were able to pet the cat and pick it up. It did not struggle, and as Eric hugged it, he could feel the poor thing's shaking from the cold. They carried it in a backpack because its paws looked damaged from walking on the ice of the mountain. After the couple handed their cat off to some villagers, they learned that the feline had already climbed the mountain once before being lost. It had done the same thing and followed hikers to the top. The sweet cat had gone missing for over 3 days. Luckily, its instincts had loaded to follow the hikers and eventually be saved by the roarers. The couple didn't make it to the summit in the end, but they were both happy and satisfied by their adventure. After all, saving a life means more than admiring any landscape.
Subscribe for more content like this. And don't forget to hit the bell button so you can be updated right away for new uploads.